All right, hello. Welcome everybody back to the Popcorn Square. We are doing Best Friends Forever, guys, and that means Deadpool and Wolverine. So without further ado, we're going to launch right into it. I'm Buttons along with
Neff.
Kage.
All right, so everybody should know, just because of the sheer amount of promotion that's behind this movie, that Deadpool and Wolverine is set to be one of the biggest movies this year. That is my prediction. It's been my prediction since they came out with it, that this one is going to be way up there. And they have promoted the crap out of it. So, we're going to talk a little bit about what our expectations are for box office, as well as try not to give, a whole lot of spoilers, but definitely go into our impressions of the movie. We all saw it recently as a fun group outing together. So, we all, kind of fanboyed all over the place. Just truly enjoyed the movie. I know I can speak for everyone here that it was, full of laughs, full of, fun little Easter eggs. And, if anybody is a fan of those movies, it's, not to quote one of my other coworkers, it's the Deadpooliest Deadpool of all the Deadpools. So I feel like that is a very apt description. And, I'll just say that for anybody who's on the fence as to whether it's going to be full of, Disney wokeness or anything like that, I mean, they're making fun of it for the most part. So there's really not going to be anything to disappoint you guys. It is just a fun, laugh riot throughout the whole movie. There's some serious parts, yeah, which is nice. You want to kind of break it up a little bit so it's not just a full on, I think it's the runtime of about 2 hours.
2 hours and 7 minutes.
Yeah, 2 hours and 7 minutes. So it's not just, laughs throughout the entire movie, but it's definitely everything that you could hope and want out of a Deadpool movie. Neff, your thoughts?
Oh, yeah, same Buttons. Pretty good movie. I give it a 8.4 out of 10. I think we all kind of agreed if we were going off like a grade scale that you'd see like in grade school, we give it a B. So, yeah, we give it all an 8. Definitely recommend the movie. I'm going to be watching it again next week. Just got some plans to do that, so that's how it lined up for me. But, yeah, 2 thumbs up for this film. I have to agree with what Button said and what the coworker had said. This is the most Deadpool of all Deadpool films. And personally, I actually don't know how they're going to top this as far as bringing it all together. I think it'd be cool if they ended it here, honestly. You end on a high note. I do think word of mouth could push this film to $1 billion. Seeing as how this would be the highest grossing Deadpool of all in the franchise, I could see this being the end. And not to give away any spoilers, but the way it ended, be a nice little bow and ribbon. If you keep going, like Kage said multiple times, and we all agree with him here, you don't want to Fast and Furious this thing. I think Deadpool could go down as one of the best. And now it's part of the MCU. They say the fifth. What is it, fifth phase, they call that in the MCU?
Oh, yeah, phase 5.
It's part of phase 5. So I think this might be the last hurrah. I know some people were saying that maybe Guardians of the Galaxy was the last hurrah. But since Deadpool is coming in towards the tail end of all that stuff, I think this is probably the last hurrah for Marvel. Now, Disney could flip this thing around. I don't think that's likely, but I think this would be a nice way to end it if they do. I like the movie. Runtime wasn't too bad. I think they could have cut 10, 20 minutes out of it, though. I think that would have made it even better, honestly. But overall, the movie was great. I think it's a nice way to end the franchise if they decide to end the franchise. Hugh Jackman did great as Wolverine. I mean, absolutely awesome. And this is the true Wolverine that I wanted to see. And I talked about this, I believe, on the Claws Out episode that we had last time we were filming here and recording. I said, I cannot wait to hear the banter between Deadpool and Wolverine. You got serious comedic, and then you got really comedic on the other end. Mm-hmm. And so if you know those characters' personalities, either from comic book lore or just TV shows, you know that they're definitely going to hit heads, and you definitely see that in this film. But they do team up together, and they're a great team. I thought it was very well balanced. Like Button said, you had good serious moments. They didn't overdo it with corny jokes in between the serious moments. They let the moment be serious. They let the audience digest that, and then they move on to something more lighthearted or something became more comedic. So I really do like the balance in that. We see that a lot in films these days. They don't know how to take a scene and make it serious and leave it like that. We saw that in Thor: Love and Thunder, where you had a serious scene in Thor, but then it gets overshadowed by a corny joke that doesn't really fit in the dialogue. So with this, I thought it was very balanced. Absolutely love the intro. If you are a millennial, you're gonna love the intro to this film. It's basically everything I expected, though. Pass it on to Kage to give some thoughts, and then we'll deep dive more into the details of this film, the marketing of the film, and what we think the future holds.
All right, yeah. So, in agreement with my co-host, absolute 8 out of 10. I would say that this is arguably the best Marvel film that we've had in a very long time, maybe even since Endgame. I mean, I really enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy, especially the last movie, way to end that trilogy. But this was just a damn good time. It was just a really good time. The jokes were on point. We talked a bit about it off mic, and we said that it was a love letter to millennials. If you were around back then and you watched all the earlier Marvel movies, this is for you. If you were old enough to remember certain pop songs, like there's all kinds of songs from our high school days or whatever, it's in there too. And tons and tons and tons of cameos. And of course, lots of profanity and violence, as we all know and love from Deadpool.
Yeah.
So I was absolutely loving this film.
Yeah.
There was, and you can tell the energy was good in the theater. Everyone was laughing and having a great
house.
time. Packed house.
Oh, yeah. I know that, something that I did while we were waiting for the movie to start was I kind of scrolled through the different show times to see,
seats.
what was going to be still
Oh,
available. And, it seemed like every single one that I looked at for Saturday was packed. Like there was very few seats left except for the ones right up, in front of the screen, which nobody truly likes to sit in those seats unless they have to. But I mean, all of the main regular, house seats, they were pretty much full. There was like onesie, twosie open seats. And so that really bodes well to, this movie doing some really huge numbers, not just the first weekend, but, hopefully throughout.
Continuous, yeah,
Right.
throughout the rest of the month, you could
Right.
argue.
And as Neff mentioned, he's planning on seeing it again. And I do think that because of the amount of Easter eggs and all of the just the fun little quips and jokes in there that relate back to not just other Marvel movies, but, ragging on Fox, ragging on Disney, they...
Ragging on DC.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, nothing was off limits, except for apparently cocaine. That was one of the
Would
kind of
you-
running
That's where
jokes
we
in the
draw
movie.
the
Is this
line.
the-
No pun intended.
Right.
is it safe to say that Deadpool 3 is like the Eminem of Marvel movies? Nobody is safe.
Yeah.
Nobody
It's
is
an
safe.
analogy.
Make fun of everything.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
2002
But
Eminem.
see, we
Yeah.
unfortunately we're kind of in the offended generation, but nobody can touch Eminem. And I think Deadpool is the same way. He gets away with it because of who he is, of who his
And
character
let me not
is.
forget, gotta praise Ryan Reynolds. You
Right.
have to. I mean, this
Right.
guy is probably the most intricate part of the film. And I also have to praise the fact that you do have a lot of characters. Like we said, we're not trying to really spoil anything. You have a lot of cool cameos, a lot of characters. I never felt like someone was getting more screen time than the other. So
Yeah,
very good
yeah,
way of
definitely.
having a big ensemble of big actors and big characters and all keeping it very equal at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think Ryan Reynolds had a big part in that, especially bringing
Now-
back certain people from his past in film. I thought it was
Yes.
great.
Yeah, it was really good.
Good balance.
One little article that I came across that I want to share with everyone from Entertainment Weekly. I'm not going to read the article. I'm just going to give you the headline. Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman want to star in a movie with Tom Holland's Spider-Man so that they can abuse him. But listen, hear me out. It's absolutely correct what Neff said, that I am all for trilogies if the story is good enough, and don't beat a dead horse, don't Fast and Furious it. But I'm going to throw a wild card out here. I think I would be open to seeing that as the final movie, just for fun. If they didn't do it and they ended it here, I would be okay with that. I think it was a fitting end. But if they did something like this, I think that would just be hilarious because there are comics of featuring Deadpool and Spider-Man, which is hilarious to me because Wolverine and Deadpool together makes perfect sense. You have two guys that heal, that can't die, so it's perfect that they work together. Spider-Man does not heal. He's not invincible. He simply wears a mask, just
Right.
like Deadpool.
Well-
And that's why they make fun of him so much. It is like you don't have powers. So I think that would be funny.
I also think that along the same lines, a collaboration with Venom would be entertaining for that reason. So because they're very mouthy characters.
Yeah.
All three of those characters have got that same kind of similar attitude. And
I do agree with you, Buttons, but I think we need to see Venom and Spider-Man on screen first.
yes, they
Like
definitely need to have something.
truly see it the way it needs to be done.
Right, yeah,
That's fair.
Not going back
have
to
seen
the
'em on screen,
Spider-Man
but-
3
Right,
version of interaction that did not go over well
Right.
at all. But, just to keep things moving along, let's go ahead and pivot here.
I'm gonna give you guys a tidbit real quick.
Oh, okay.
So, it's funny because it goes into the next topic that we have.
Right.
So, I checked last night. The numbers were great. Guys, these numbers, you're gonna lose your mind over this.
Mm-hmm.
So, budget $200 million, which I think we all, we surmised that it was gonna be around that, especially
based
with
off of the
this
previous
cast,
movies. Mm-hmm.
right, and the previous cast, and we thought they were gonna be doing a little more, you know what I mean? So it
Disney
makes
always
sense.
throws a little more.
Lined up perfectly. Marketing budget, $100 million.
Mm-hmm.
Not surprising either, because we talked about this before.
Oh,
We're
it's
seeing
been
this thing
tons of-
marketed
yeah.
everywhere.
We can talk
It's
about that.
Disney Marvel's
Mm-hmm.
only film this year, so you knew they were going to throw everything at it. So that was a pretty crazy marketing budget, but it does make sense. Box office, 438.3.
Yeah.
$500 million
dollars
in
And
the
that's just
weekend.
the first weekend. So
yeah.
I think this movie's going to be the highest grossing movie of the year.
Yeah. Based off of our previous conversations about, what we think as far as performance for these movies, for what was listed to come out this year, Deadpool for me was always one of the ones that was sitting at the very top. Maybe not the most, but was going to be
Yeah, I was
up
about
there
to say,
in
we-
the top 3.
we had our
So-
episode talking
If this
about
isn't the most,
Despicable
it
Me.
will be second behind Inside Out 2.
Inside
And
Out.
another thing, Inside Out 2 is the highest grossing animated film of all time now.
Right.
I
right.
believe that.
That's crazy.
I
It
believe
is-
that.
Especially because, granted, I have not seen Inside Out 2, but I did go back and rewatch the first one in
Yeah.
anticipation of watching the second
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
And, it's a good, well fleshed out story. And as far as, for what Disney and Pixar did with it's definitely appeals to multiple generations.
Yeah, correct.
They can have, the kids and the adults both enjoy that movie. And that's one of Disney's strong points is they've always tried to make their movies appeal across multiple generations so that nobody's sitting there stuck, feeling like
Yeah.
they're stuck in the theater because they had to bring their kid to the latest and greatest, fart joke movie to entertain them. So this is a little bit more sophisticated humor that, aims above the child's head. With Deadpool and Wolverine, you've got to understand that this is not just a fart joke movie. It's also because trust me, there's a lot of that kind of jokes
It's funny you
in
bring
there.
that up because that's the one thing I did not get for. The jokes got repetitive.
Yeah,
Like
so
certain
wasn't-
jokes are getting repetitive.
But I
was
will
like,
say
all right.
this,
It's funny,
like
but
not to give anything away. So, if I had to rank it, I would say the first movie is king. Deadpool and Wolverine is going to be ranked number 2, and Deadpool 2 is on the bottom tier for the reason that you just said. Because in the first one, you had plenty of fourth wall breaks, cameos, references, stuff like that. But they didn't. But in Deadpool 2, I really didn't like. Most notably, the rehash of jokes. So in the first one, he lost his hand and he had a baby hand that was there, and he goes, I'm just gonna wait until this grows back, and he goes, I'm gonna. He made a joke about masturbating in the living room. He was trying to get his roommate to leave or whatever, and so there was that. But then in part 2, it shows him with baby legs, and they had a whole bit there, and I kind of rolled my eyes. I'm like, okay, you already did that joke the first one, and there was something like that in this, but they didn't. It was just a blip. You could have easily missed it, honestly. So I was like, okay. So I think they get it that they shouldn't do
something
The
different.
same joke.
So you do something
I
different,
agree
yeah.
with you on that. I will say, and it's ironic because for this to be Disney, Marvel, and Deadpool now, this is probably the most rated R Deadpool.
Yes.
This one took it to the next level. Like
Yeah.
you thought the other two were adult
Yeah.
films. These are like really adult films,
Right. I
but
mean,
funny. But it
the
was
only-
just like this is really pushing it.
You
like,
can do whatever
I
you
would
want as long as
say-
it's funny.
Yeah.
I would say the one thing that also, you should know about this film versus the first two is the first two were heavy romance connections between his Deadpool's Wade Wilson's character and Vanessa, and with this one. They kind of pull away a lot from the original cast in the first two. Like they definitely are in there, but it's focus on this one is Deadpool and Wolverine.
Correct.
So, while those characters are there in the film, they kind of take a back seat to the
They-
relationship that's going on between Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
And, one of the other things that I'll say, because I don't want to give too much away about the movie, but something to take into consideration, both the first and second Deadpool movies are fairly linear. This one is a multiverse movie.
Very
it jumps
good point.
around.
Very good point.
It's, the story has, its way of going, but it's also going to be a little less cohesive as all these multiverse movies have been because you're kind of jumping focus back and forth across the timeline and across how they tied it into the Marvel universe in order to make the
Great
story.
point.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking
go
about
through
that last night, and that's another thing I knocked it on, but I do understand, but I still knocked it on now. I said the first 20, 30 minutes of this movie was kind of all over the place.
Right.
Not too bad, but it was kind of all over the place, and I knew they had to establish the relationship between Wolverine and Deadpool. But I was
Right.
like, okay, when are we going to have a common enemy?
Heck, they
Okay,
even
then
they
we
even
got the
joked
common
in
enemy.
that. They even
Right.
joked in
Yeah.
that about all right, 30 minutes in. I know this is what you guys were waiting for. So,
Yeah, it's like, all
so
right.
I mean, they
Right.
they even joke about it within the movie.
So yeah, you got a good point there.
The,
What do you think, Kage, about that?
there-
As far as the story, because I
Yeah.
thought it was doing what she was saying, and I was like, all right.
I expected.
All right, now we got a focus now. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
I expected it to do just that, to kind of be all over the place a little bit. We want to open up with action, comedy, fourth wall breaks, and it's like just like the very first film. It's like I bet you want to know how we got here, and then it flashes back, and then
Right.
there's of course multiverse madness, no pun intended, for you Doctor Strange fans, but there's two things I want to bring up. First and foremost, we talked about promotion. Okay, I did my best, as we all have, as you all should, to stay off the internet because the spoilers. If my criticism of it's not of the film, it's the marketing, because there were people, even if you were trying to go in spoiler free, stuff unfortunately was spoiled for us. I'm not going to go into the details of that. Suffice to say, I'll be on the internet, I'll be on YouTube, on social media, and I won't even be Googling. You can look at my search history. There's nothing about Deadpool because I tried my best to go in dark. And people were just posting thumbnails. Just the thumbnails. I'm not even looking for it, and it pops up in my YouTube suggested or whatever. I'm like, really? Like you couldn't keep that under wraps? Like you had to
Right.
show that? Like, come on. This is the biggest Marvel movie people were anticipating for the longest time, and you're gonna let that out? Really?
Yeah.
So that was a big complaint. But some of the fun stuff I've seen from marketing from around the world, I've seen 3D posters. I've seen trucks driving around with like screens on them, or my personal favorite, I saw a video of a truck driving through Tokyo with a flatbed truck with a full-on statue of Deadpool laying sideways with a Wolverine on his knee or something, and that's all that truck does. You're getting paid to drive through Tokyo to drive. I'm like, come on, why can't we have that in America? Like, that was fun.
We probably do in some places.
I would imagine maybe Vegas or New York if I had to put a beat on it. But the other thing I want to talk about too is just the overall energy in the theater. Okay, we went to the theater, everyone was laughing, having a good time. You could look around you, everyone was sporting Deadpool shirts. And you can tell who saw Deadpool because Buttons, she had it. She had her Deadpool swag. Heck yeah.
Yeah, I did.
I'm glad you brought that up, Kage. Good attention to detail, paying attention, because I saw a lot of Deadpool T-shirts, and I said, man, when's the last time people have been this excited
That's
about a
what
Marvel
I'm
movie?
saying.
So
That
I knew it was
says
going to be
something.
big. Like, okay.
Yeah, because whenever we have a superhero movie, Marvel movie, when it's really good, I saw the same thing with Avengers Endgame. Everybody was wearing their Marvel
Captain
T-shirt,
America
Captain America. They were
shield or
rooting for their
something,
heroes, you know what I mean? And so it feels like forever since I saw this type of enthusiasm, this energy in the theater. So I think that was very refreshing for me. Like, from seeing all that, I was like, okay, this has to be good. I hope it's good.
Yeah.
I hope it's good. And you can tell either who saw it or who was going to see it, because you're walking around, because they were showing it they were doing several screenings of it at the same time, and you're walking around and you can see people wearing the shirts. You can see that person walking through, because the place where we saw it was in a mall, for example. So you're walking through the mall and everybody's wearing it. It's like, that's somebody who either just saw it or who is about to see it. Yeah. So it was just a really good time, good energy in that regard.
And something to touch on there as well, since you bring it up, is, it takes me back to when I was younger, and, back in the day, and I mean, I know it's like this in some places still, but fortunately, the theater that we went to, they had assigned seats. But back in the day, if you wanted a good seat in the theater, you had to show up an hour ahead of the showtime to stand in line so that you knew you weren't going to be sitting way back in the corner in the back or way up front, to where you're like craning your neck to see the screen, in order to get a good seat, especially if you're going with friends. So, and it's not, I don't know that it's, was like that everywhere this weekend, but I would not be surprised if people had videos or pictures or anything like that in the theaters that don't do those assigned seats, where they're waiting in line for Deadpool. Oh yeah, the first showing of the day, or maybe the first showing in general for Thursday when it came out, waiting in that line to go and get a good seat, to sit down and enjoy that movie. And really, that kind of excitement and that kind of, fandom and camaraderie is contagious. And, you sit down in the theater, and maybe the joke wasn't super funny, but, the people around you are laughing, so you feel like more invigorated by it, and you might laugh too, whereas otherwise you might have just given it a little chuckle. But the fact that everybody's laughing and having a good time, that kind of energy is contagious, and
Yes,
and I feel like it makes it more enjoyable. It makes, the experience that much more enjoyable, because even I know, I was sitting down watching it, and the little Easter eggs, I was pointing them out. I was like, oh, look, over there, look, do you see it?
Same.
Do you see it? And it's like, oh, yeah, that was that. And yeah, that was in the other movie. Or, oh, that's from that other Marvel movie. Do you remember? And so, I'm trying to be vague on purpose to not tell you guys all the things. But as you know, all of the Marvel movies, they throw in little Easter eggs in there. And this Deadpool, it definitely capitalizes, because now that it's part of the Marvel Universe, throwing a whole lot of Marvel Easter eggs at you. But I just think that, Disney does a good job in that respect. And we're going to go into as far as, what all they've done with the story for Deadpool since they've taken it over. But I feel like Disney, if nothing else, they do a good job of throwing in those Easter eggs for the fans to catch, so that when you go back and you rewatch it, you see something new. You see, oh, I didn't notice that the first time. Or, somebody mentioned that, there's a cameo, or there's somebody who played that role and you didn't notice it before.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, there's two things. It's not spoiler of the story, I just want to point out, per tradition, there is a Stan Lee cameo. I'm not going to tell you what and where, but I am going to tell you to keep it. Look for it. It's always nice, rest in peace, Stan Lee, the myth, the man, the legend. It's great to see that they still include him in some way. The other thing I will say is, like in all Marvel movies, watch out for the after credits, because there is an after credits scene, and I was very thoroughly impressed.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
It was so good, and it was not.
It's not a cut into another
Right.
movie or anything, but it's just like a fun little.
It ties back into the
It ties
film.
back into it,
Exactly,
and I really enjoyed that. So those are the only spoilers, if you want to call it that I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I think Disney did a good job letting Ryan Reynolds and the rest of the cast and anybody that was really doing anything creative on this film do their thing with it. I was going to make a point here, and it makes sense. It kind of goes without saying, but some people will probably ask, dang, why can't Disney let everybody do this type of stuff? Why can't they just stay on this path, this trajectory?
Right.
But then again, you have to look at the background and the past with this. The reason they're letting Ryan Reynolds do this, and I heard there was some headbutts going on between Ryan Reynolds and the CEO of Disney, Bob Iger, but they probably looked at the past performance of Deadpool 1 and 2 and said, okay,
Because
we'll let him do his thing.
No,
you know
well,
what I mean?
to your
I
point-
could
because
see
he's
that.
the Eminem of the MCU.
Right.
But-
You see how successful he is?
Right.
You can't censor him.
Right.
You can't cancel him.
Well-
he's gonna do what he's gonna do, and we're gonna let you do it because it's gonna make a lot of money.
Right.
But to your point, and this
And Disney
goes,
needs the win right now.
this goes
Right.
back. This goes back to how much clout do you have as an actor, or in this case, Deadpool's character, which is simply, yes, it's Ryan Reynolds, and we know, looking at his film career, he is Deadpool, and to many of his movies that he's done, his style, his delivery, is just very much Deadpool. Now, granted, it's over the top for this character, but Ryan Reynolds, just as a comedian in general, is very similar humor across the board, across his many roles that he's done. But the second film, and I don't know about the first one as well, but the second film for sure had a lot of problems because of creative differences. And Ryan Reynolds basically, laid down the law and said, look, if you're not going to let me do it my way, I'm not going to do it. And without him, there isn't Deadpool. And so, I feel like, if they had butted heads, which I think creatively, there's always going to be some butting heads, but ultimately, if you can put the trust in the people who have brought in the views, who have brought in the butts in seats, and say, look, this is what they want. We know this is what they want. We're listening to what the fans want, and I don't care what your CEO or your executives or whoever say it's a bad idea or we should do it this way. It's like, we have a writing team. We are trusting the team. We are trusting, the material that we have. And if we don't like what they present to us, we'll let them know and make them fix it.
And when your movie makes money, you can do that.
Exactly.
Leverage.
Exactly.
If Deadpool 1 didn't do as good, this wouldn't be happening. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean?
But they've
Obviously,
been
these things have to.
increasing.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and one I guess final thought I want to say is that Wolverine, Hugh Jackman, what did you just said it, Buttons, that Deadpool is Deadpool. Johnny Depp is Captain Jack Sparrow. Like, there's certain actors that are just absolutely made for certain roles, and you when you think of that character, you have to think of that actor. They just go
Right.
hand in hand. So it makes sense, hear me out, that Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. He's been Wolverine for 20-something years and multiple movies. Meanwhile, Ryan Reynolds has only been Deadpool for 3 movies. But that speaks to his capability as an actor, as a comedian, that he is on par. Even though he only did 3 movies as his character, he did a damn good
And he's passionate
job.
about the
And he's
character of
very
Deadpool,
passionate
which
about the
helps his
character.
performance. Because if he didn't care
Absolutely.
about the character,
So-
he wouldn't care
so,
about
like,
the performance
just-
of the movie.
Right.
You see that with Halo.
Yeah, and just, but
which is why it got canceled.
Yep.
But anyway.
But like to see an actor who's done how many movies, 20 plus years of the same character against a character an actor who's only done 3 movies,
8 years.
8 years, but like the fact that they were able to meet and come together. Thank you, Marvel. That's all I can say. Thank you, Marvel. Thank you, Disney.
And they have a lot of chemistry.
Yeah.
They have
Hugh
they have
Jackman
great
and
chemistry,
Ryan Reynolds
and they've
is
been
great.
doing
Great balance.
they've been doing a lot of promotion.
Oh, yeah.
Just yesterday, I watched the Hot Ones episode, and Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, and it's so great to see these two guys together on the screen and off, because Hugh Jackman, he's like grizzly, but he was absolutely crying. I'm not going to pick on him too much because I know I couldn't do Hot Ones, but it was funny. Ryan Reynolds was able to keep it together. Hugh Jackman was in tears by Sauce 4.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I highly recommend you guys.
And
go
it's
check
funny,
that out.
you can argue that I would say all 3 are on the same level. You can argue which one you think has the edge, but I'd say it's fair to say all 3 are on the same level. This is the Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. level, where no one else can play these characters.
Right.
It's got to be Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, and it's got to be Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Has to be,
But Matt-
because it's just not going to work. You
Right.
know what I mean? As far as someone taking it in the audience, taking it seriously.
But if we have another Thor movie, we got to have Matt Damon, right?
He'll be doing something comedic.
He's got to be doing something, yeah. But and that's the thing. That's the thing about Deadpool is like everybody wants to be a part of it. They could have easily make another one of these movies, and I know I normally say 3, but just for fun's sake, I think that would be funny.
Funny, you're going into our last topic.
Yeah,
buttons.
so
Yeah.
we're gonna just to kind of wrap it up a little bit before we go into the future of the franchise. Just kind of touch on, I feel like we all had positive reviews of the movie. We're all saying that this one is going to get up there to that $1 billion. I think it's safe to say,
Definitely, yeah.
especially after that 400 million plus over the weekend for the box office. Disney, they took a back seat and let them do what they needed to do with the story, and I think it really shows because like I said, just full of jokes. Everybody was having a good time, and these theaters are getting packed, getting sold out, basically. But as far as what the future looks like, Kage's mentioned a couple different things, as far as what he'd like to see. Personally, for the franchise, I think as far as doing a standalone movie, I'm glad that this one was a collaboration because yes, Deadpool can do his own thing by himself, but the second movie to me felt a little stale on that regards, especially towards the end of it. So this movie was kind of a nice, departure from that style, and I feel like it brought in a whole new level of enjoyment to see that collaboration and the story take a different turn. Because they kind of hint in the movie a little bit too about the stagnation. And so this is like a new way to leap forward. And they kind of did that with Guardians of the Galaxy as well, showing, like, hey, we had our story, we were moving along, and now everything gets turned on its head after introducing into the multiverse. So whether or not Deadpool gets his own standalone movie again, I still would like to see him brought into, maybe they could pull him into, if they do another huge Avengers movie, I would love to see him actually get thrown into, as a character that has, a good portion of, event, because I think his character does well when he has other people to play off of. When he's by himself, yes, he can carry a story. He did for the first 2, but I feel like him having a collaboration made the story just that much more interesting and carried it along faster to where you didn't really notice as many of the slower parts. So I would really love to see him continue on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but maybe not in another movie. I feel like this one gave him a nice, good, solid launching for just pure Deadpool. Like, bring him in to the other movies, but he doesn't necessarily need to have his own standalone movie again.
Buttons, would you say that's an educated wish? I agree.
It is my educated wish.
I have to agree with you. I do like this one as ending on a high note.
Right.
I am kind of indifferent to if we see it again. Of course, if the movie's good, you want to see more, obviously,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
That's how we felt about Dune, right? We know Messiah's coming, and we know that's going to be the last one, right? That we see of this quality that we know of, right? Of course, you want to see more of the story told, but then again, you always want to keep it consistent. High note, I think this is a great way to end this thing. Man, but then too, like you said, it kind of feels like, can we do some more with this, right? Mm-hmm. Once again, the bar would be raised as
Right.
well, so they got to try to jump over that bar. But I don't know. I think I'm happy with it if it's finished here.
Yeah.
But if it's not finished, maybe you get a standalone Deadpool. Maybe he comes into the new Avengers series.
No.
I think maybe he's not a key component,
No.
but maybe something for some comedic balance in
Yeah.
between a serious scene with the Avengers, and maybe a little action in between. I think that would be awesome. But yeah, in my opinion, I like where it's at right now. I really do like this movie. It's probably my favorite Deadpool movie.
Right.
Probably. Like, you know what I mean? But I do kind of see where Kage's going with number one. It's very fresh. You don't really see comic book characters like this come onto screen like really ever, you know what I mean? And so it's always hard to top that first movie. But I feel like with this ensemble, the way they did it, the balance in between, I thought it was really well put together. But yeah, it's definitely, I really did I like the second one, honestly. It wasn't that bad to me.
No,
I think when
no.
you're comparing
I
it
think
to the
you're just-
first, you
yeah.
can kind of see the flaws here and there. But I think if it does, become argument between two Deadpool films, it's between this one and the first one, and I think it's pretty close. But I think the way they really tied everything in, you brought Hugh Jackman in as Wolverine, comic book accurate Wolverine. We haven't seen this in 20 years. We
Right.
finally got the comic book accurate Wolverine, and you got the lore accurate one as
And
well.
I wanna-
Not a spoiler, you'll see, guys.
And I want to
What you
say,
got, Kage?
and I want to say one thing too that I saw from Hot Ones. It was a very interesting tidbit of information. Is Hugh Jackman commented on how he just said, "I'm retiring from the role of Wolverine. I've done it, and I'm getting older." Blah blah blah. And then he said 2 or 3 days later he saw Deadpool 1, and he immediately was like, okay, maybe I need to do this role just one more time. We need to, and he said he contacted Ryan Reynolds. Hey, I don't know if you're filming, if it's in the pipeline, but I just want to let you know I want to do this.
For
I want to do
sure.
this.
I'm in.
And then of course we had the second movie. We had strikes and all stuff. So it took a while to get
yeah.
it to come together. But damn, they did a fantastic job
yeah.
in making this come to fruition.
Yeah, and to finish up my thought there, yeah, I'm content if this is the end of the franchise. I think it's at a high note. I don't think if they do another film like this that it will do as good as this film is going to do. Obviously, because it's first type like this film
Yeah,
where you
it'll
have
feel recycled.
where you have
Yeah.
two different characters coming together in the world. It's the first time you're seeing that.
Yeah.
So once again, the excitement is going to be at an all-time level, kind of like introducing Deadpool 1. So
Or
I feel like
with
it's
the
going
last
to be
Spider-Man.
right. I feel like it's going to be very hard. Good comparison there.
Yeah.
Very hard to kind of top this. So I'm content if it ends. I think this movie was great. I think everybody should go see it and support it.
Yes.
Kage, you want to take this out after your thoughts?
Yeah, so it's fair to say, well, not even fair, it's fact. The three of us, we really enjoyed this movie, and we highly, highly recommend it. Just like in line with what Neff said, I'm gonna go see it again as well. I think there's a lot of Easter eggs in this movie, and I almost feel like you have to see it again to go back and catch more Easter eggs. There's so much to unpack here, and it's just a really good time. Take your friends, take your family. Maybe your kids are not, depending on how old they are.
The teenagers. You can bring your teenagers.
I will say, when I went to go see Deadpool 1, I do remember being in the theater, and I actually watched a family get up and leave.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of
because they miscalculated. It's a
how
Marvel
much
movie.
sex
I
there
can
was going to
take.
be in there.
Oh yeah, the
There's
the
quite a
sex
bit.
collage. I was like, wow, okay. I mean, it was funny for us, but it's just like questionable.
For your 10-year-old.
Happy International Women's Day. Remember that scene,
Yes.
folks? He's like, no, no, no. But all right, guys. These are our thoughts on Deadpool. Are you guys gonna see it? Say yes, yes,
If
right?
you've already seen
If
it.
you've already seen it, are you gonna see it again? If you haven't seen it, are you gonna go see it? We highly recommend it. It's a great time, guys. But I am your host, Kage, with
Neff.
And buttons.
and we will see you on the next episode of the Popcorn Square. Take care of yourselves. Be safe.
Be safe.